Hello and welcome. This is week 2 of the Come Follow Me art journaling, and this week we are studying 1 Nephi chapters 1 through 7. My name is Jackie Johnson and I am the creator behind Come Follow Me art journaling. Come Follow Me art journaling is literally just an art journal that follows along with the Come Follow Me curriculum. What you're seeing here is not actually the art journaling page that I'll be creating today. It's more of a prompt that I use to create the art journaling page. I actually kind of had a hard time trying to figure out what I wanted to draw for this art journal spread. Normally my problem is that I have too many ideas, not no ideas. I sat down and I read Nephi 1 through 7, but afterwards I just had no good ideas of what I wanted to draw or create as this art journal spread. I ended up thinking about it for days. I brainstormed a whole bunch of different ideas, but all of those ideas just seemed really flat and uninspiring, and they just didn't stand out to me as the thing that I should create. I just asked God to inspire my mind so that I could think of something that would be meaningful. Then as I was reading through the chapters again, chapter 3 verse 7 just really jumped off the page at me. Nephi said, I will go and do the things which the Lord hath commanded, for I know that the Lord giveth no commandments unto the children of men, save he shall prepare a way for them, that they may accomplish the thing which he commandeth them. I know it's like a really classic and favorite scripture of so many, but there was something about it that was impressing itself on my mind, and I just really felt strongly that I needed to create something around that. I think that usually when people think of that scripture, they think about when Nephi says, I will go and do, which really is a very powerful statement of faith on his part, but the part that really stood out to me was where he said that he shall prepare a way for them that they may accomplish the thing which he commandeth them. It reminded me of the talk given by Michelle Craig this last general conference called Spiritual Capacity. She talked about her grandpa and why he was such a powerful tool in the Lord's hands, because he was willing to listen to the Lord, to give his will to the Lord, and go places that maybe seemed strange, but ultimately were where the Lord was leading him so that he could be the best tool in his hands. Sometimes the Lord asks us to do things that seem strange or impossible or so difficult that we may not be up to the task. But when this happens, even if we can't see how things are going to turn out, I think that the Lord wants us to be able to trust him, to know that he is preparing a way, even if that way may seem different than what we expect. So what I wanted to draw in my art journal was the most difficult obstacle that you could possibly think of to get over. And then I drew a little character right at the beginning of this obstacle, and I wanted to show that the Lord would provide a way. So I drew an arm coming out of a cloud, symbolizing the Lord providing a way. I also wrote the scripture down at the bottom there. I like to do that with my art journaling because with mixed media, I like to have a lot of layers and just add different things to make it look more interesting. In the end, you're not going to be able to read what that says, but if you look really closely, you'll be able to see that there is writing underneath there, and to me, it's more about the creating experience as well, and not just the finished result, so it's okay to me that you can't read it in the end. I'm also going to write over the top of that just the part of the scripture that really stood out to me. And then later on, I'll also be writing in some of my scripture study notes in that top left corner as well. So I took that previous picture at the very beginning of the video, and I used that as my prompt. I actually drew that before I drew this, and I did that for 2 reasons. One, I wanted to kind of show where I was getting this idea from, The other thing is that I know that there's some people that would prefer a more simplistic look for their art journal, so I wanted to create something that they could create instead. So I wanted to provide that as like a second idea of something that you could create in your own journal and get the same kind of idea out of it. Once I drew my path, I just decided to add as many different kind of obstacles that seemed impossible or just really difficult to overcome. So I drew like this like lava or like spikes, a tripwire, even things that just kind of seemed funny and more comical, because I don't want this to necessarily be like all stuffy and super boring or anything. I really enjoy having my humor or my personality come out in my art, so that's kind of why I wanted to do that. At the very top of the path, I drew a little doorway, and I colored it kind of the same color as the cloud that the Lord's arm was coming out of. And the reason why I did that was because I wanted it to symbolize heaven. After I drew everything with a pencil, I just went back in with a fine Sharpie and I outlined everything. And then I went ahead and erased all the pencil lines. Sometimes I really like to draw on the outline first because then you get to kind of just treat it like a coloring book. And I'm so excited because in this video I get to use these water-soluble crayons for the first time. I've been wanting them for over a year and my husband got them for me for Christmas. They're pretty pricey, so that's why I waited this long before I got them. They're called Caran dAche neocolor 2s, and I totally probably said that name wrong. And they're basically just these water-soluble crayons that you color with and then you can activate them with water. They're basically watercolor in a stick. I love them so much because they're just ultra pigmented, they just go down really smoothly, they're just so glorious, and I love how satisfying it is when you activate them with water. I've used water-soluble pencils before, but these are just like on the next level. Seriously, if you have money to splurge on art supplies, I definitely recommend these. I'll put a link in the description box below to all of the art supplies that I'm using. But even so, please don't feel like you have to go out and buy anything new. These art journal spreads really can be made with any art supply, whatever you have on hand, and just adapt it to whatever supply you're using. This particular art journal spread can easily be created using just regular crayons. You could use markers or watercolors. I do feel like it's really important to try new art supplies because that helps you figure out what you like to use when you create, and if it hadn't been for me experimenting with different art supplies, I would have never discovered mixed media. Which is a really funny thing to say because literally mixed media is just using multiple mediums in one piece. But before, for whatever reason, I had it in my head that you could only use one type of supply in any given art piece. And I also felt like you should master just one thing. I think in the art world there's a culture of excellence that says that if you do certain things, then you're cheating. Like if you use watercolors and you don't preserve the white space as your highlights and you maybe go back in with a white gel pen or white paint afterwards, a lot of people feel like you're cheating. And if you really think about it, like that's crazy. I mean, to me, I love art journaling and I love mixed media because I don't feel like I have to follow some arbitrary set of rules that other people have created. I can just be free to use whatever supplies are going to get the job done. But with that being said, I think it's really easy to end up feeling like you just have to go out and buy all the supplies. There's really a balance. I feel like going out and getting maybe 1 or 2 different things a month or whatever your budget allows. But on a creative perspective, I don't think that it's necessarily really great to go out and get a bunch of different things all the time. There is something to be said about having limited supplies that can make you be more creative. So just do whatever works best for you and your budget and your family. Just start off with some really basic supplies and then just kind of build up your supplies as you go along. So I just want to talk about these chapters for a minute here. I know these are the most read chapters of the Book of Mormon, but I feel like a few things really stood out to me differently this time when I read through them. So most of us probably know how the story goes. If not, go and read those chapters. Right before Nephi says this famous statement of, "I will go and do the things which the Lord hath commanded," his whole family has gone out into the wilderness, and it's been 3 days, and Lehi, the father, receives a dream from the Lord asking that his sons will go back to Jerusalem and get the plates from Laban. They do that, and I always noticed that they had to try 3 separate times before they were actually able to get the plates from the king. But I was listening to Dave and Emily's podcast, Don't Miss This, and they pointed out that the first time they tried to get the plates, it was left up to chance. And when it failed, Laman and Lemuel were ready to just give up and go back to their father. But I really love what Nephi says. He said in verse 15, "As the Lord liveth, and as we live, we will not go down unto our father in the wilderness until we have accomplished the thing which the Lord hath commanded us." So then we come to their second try, and they decided to try to get the plates through strategy. They remembered that they have all this property, so they went back to their house, and they took all of their gold and silver and all their precious things to the king, hoping to be able to persuade him. But ultimately that didn't work, and King Laban tried to kill them. So now, if it didn't seem like an impossible task to get those plates before, now it seems really impossible. And Laman and Lemuel are pretty upset, and they're really angry with Nephi, and they start beating him up. And it even got to a point where an angel came and talked to them. But even after they saw and heard the words of an angel, they still complained. And in verse 31 of chapter 3, they said, "How is it possible that the Lord will deliver Laban into our hands? Behold, he is a mighty man, and he can command 50, yea, even he can slay 50, then why not us?" And those are words of hopelessness and not having trust in the Lord. I really love Nephi's response in the next chapter. He says, "Let us be faithful in keeping the commandments of the Lord, for behold, he is mightier than all the earth. Then why not mightier than Laban and his 50, yea, or even than his tens of thousands?" And these words that Nephi spoke were words of faith, the language of faith. And then what he did next was an action of faith. And this is his third attempt to get the plates from Laban, and what it says here in verse 5 is, "I, Nephi, crept into the city." And it says in verse 6, "And I was led by the Spirit, not knowing beforehand the things which I should do. Nevertheless, I went forth." And his third plan, the one that actually worked, was literally just trusting in the Lord. So I just love that so much, and that is why I chose "He Shall Prepare a Way" as this week's Come Follow Me art journaling theme. So give me a thumbs up if you like that too. And with that, I'm going to wrap up this video. Thank you so much for watching today. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the notification bell so that you can get notified every Sunday when I post a new video. Enjoy creating in your art journal, and I'll see you in the next one.